This week, something clicked for me. And I mean, really clicked in a way that stopped me mid thought. Romans 8 and Step 8 are doing the exact same thing. Now, if you're not familiar, Step 8 is the step in recovery where you make a list of people you've harmed and became willing to make amends. But underneath that, at its core, it's really about self forgiveness, learning to stop punishing yourself for who you were. And Romans 8, specifically verse 1, says, "There is no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus." None, zero. Same work, different languages. When that landed, I knew I had to make this video. But to explain why it hit me so hard, I have to take you back. I'm Kirk Taylor, and let's get into it. I was 9 years old when church just stopped in my life. My grandmother had died, and the way some people treated my mother in that congregation in the aftermath was bad enough that she never went back. At 9 years old, I went where she went, and that was it. No big decision, no dramatic exit. Church was just gone one day, didn't go anymore. Now, I never stopped believing in God. That was never the question. The question was whether any of it applied to me. I believed in God the way you believe in a place you'll never be allowed to go. He was real, heaven was real, and I was fairly certain, based on what I was carrying, based on who I was, that none of it was available to someone like me. The door was open, just not for me. Now, I felt really blessed and really lucky up until 9 years old. And when that stopped, it just kind of hit me and it just built. And underneath all of it, I was carrying something I didn't tell anybody. I was struggling with my gender identity and I didn't understand it. I didn't have the language for it. I just knew something felt wrong and I was terrified of what that meant. That secret, combined with never fitting in, combined with being convinced God had no place for me, it produced a level of self-hatred in me that lasted into my 50s. My 50s. All the time, I struggled with that, and I hated myself for a long time, and I was very good at hiding it. In February 2016, something happened that I can only describe as a Christ moment. The gender identity struggle that I had that tormented me for decades, it subsided literally in a moment. I don't have a cleaner way to say it than that. The tormented lifted. But it wasn't over completely. Over the months that followed, I kept waiting for it to come back. And there were moments where I questioned whether it would and whether it did. And that fear of, is this going to return and take me back under, that lingered all the way through the summer and into the fall, that kept a grip on me. Then in October of 2016, a young lady invited me somewhere. I ended up at a church I had driven past on the highway for 10 years. 10 years I drove past that place thinking they'd never accept me in there. Not with what I'm carrying, not with who I thought I was. But then I walked in and there was a pastor there, Pastor John, who had this gift for making you feel like you're the only person in the room. Like whatever you were carrying, it was okay to set it down for a moment. On the way out, she handed me an NLT Bible, and I took it home that night and I opened it up. I didn't start in the Gospels. I started in Genesis, not Paul's letter, in Genesis, because I wasn't reading for inspiration. I was reading for answers. I needed to know why that night happened. I needed to find out if any of this was real for me. I worked through the Old Testament, and honestly, it got harder before it got easier. I felt more condemned reading it, not less. All that law, all that weight, all those people failing over and over again. I was them, and this was going to be me. There was a point where I thought, this isn't going to work out for me. There's nothing in here for someone like me. But I had made a commitment to read the whole thing, so I kept going. And I got into the New Testament, into the Gospels, and I felt a little bit of something starting to shift, something in the tone, in the texture of it. It did start to feel different, but I was still convinced, not for me. Then I hit Romans 8. There is therefore now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. I need you to understand what that sentence did to a person who had spent his entire life believing he was the exception, that God was real, heaven was real, and he wasn't going to make the cut. No condemnation, not less condemnation, not condemnation if you can get your act together. No condemnation. That was a crack of light through a door I had just assumed was locked, specifically against me. Maybe there's a chance for me. Maybe, just maybe a little bit, there would be a chance for me. Now, 6 years had passed since that time. Life happened. I kept growing, kept working, kept showing up. And eventually, I found myself in Al Anon and recovery work, working through the 12 steps with other people who were also done pretending that they had it together. And I hit step 8. Step 8 is about making a list of people you've harmed and become willing to make amends. But when you sit with it, when you really sit with it, you realize that first person on that list is usually yourself, because you can't genuinely make amends to anyone else until you've stopped being at war with who you are. It's self-forgiveness, and that's the work, a lot of the work, really hard work. And when I understood that, when I really understood what step 8 was asking me, I thought, I've been here before. Romans 8, 7 weeks into reading a Bible, always believed what was true, but had never actually opened. And there it was, a sentence I hadn't known existed, telling me there was no condemnation waiting for me. Same work, different language, 6 years apart. Reading that Bible in 2016 was the beginning of my recovery. I just didn't have the vocabulary for it yet. And I can't tell you how many times a situation like that has happened in my life, but this one was big. This one was bigger than ever. And here's what changed when I finally accepted it. I could take a compliment without arguing the person out of it. I could let someone hug me and actually receive it instead of just enduring it. I stopped being so exhausted to be around because I stopped needing everyone around me to constantly prove that I was worth something. That's what self-forgiveness does. It frees up a lot of energy you don't know you were spending. Here's what I want to leave you with. There are people in every church, in every recovery room, in every small group, people who look like they have it completely together, who are quietly falling apart on the inside, and they are the least likely to ask for help, because asking for help requires believing you're worth the help. Self-forgiveness isn't soft. It's not letting yourself off the hook. It is the work. And until you do it, you will keep showing up for the people you love at a fraction of what you're capable of. So here's my honest encouragement. Give yourself a break. Read Romans 8, the whole chapter, not just verse 1, and sit with it. If you're open to it, recovery is worth your time, not because you're broken beyond repair, but because the steps will walk you through the things that most of us never learn to do, including how to forgive yourself. That's what step 8 did for me, and that's what Romans 8 did for me. And I really hope it does the same thing for you. I'm Kirk Taylor. Thanks for being here.